Round of applause for all of our speakers in that session, please. Obviously, a lot to talk about. Going to start, I think, with a question from Twitter. I've got various machines here. And this is from Jess B. She says, peak horse was around 1900, which you mentioned, Calum. When will peak human be?
Who knows? My guess is we will start to get really worried about cognitive automation when we see most professional drivers becoming unemployed, which will be the beginning and middle of the next decade. I think by around 2040, very likely, maybe in the 2030s, most people will be unemployable. Our job, and really when I say that I mean your job, because you're the generation that has to make this happen, is to make sure that we decouple income from work so that we can get to that great world where the machines do all the boring stuff and humans do the fun stuff.
Are you confident that we'll be able to get to a place where that happens, Billie, where we're kind of having a jolly old time playing and sort of reading and stuff, and robots are doing all the difficult work? Or do you envisage that there might be more problems?
I mean, I think it's a possibility. I think that in an ideal world that would definitely happen. I don't think it's not. No, I think it is a possibility. There will always be drawbacks, but they're not necessarily going to inhibit it entirely. So yeah, I think, yeah.
And do you think that your job, I guess it's sort of a job anyway, isn't it, a poet, will be safe? Because I assume that, if I think about the example you gave of, I can commission you to write me a poem, and it'll take you a couple of days and cost a certain amount of money, or I can just pick 100 from a computer that's spent a minute on it. But the person that I'm giving it to, presumably will ask me, and is this a computer one? And if it's a computer one, I feel like it's sort of less value somehow, even if it's good.
Yeah.
If I know that a person hasn't done it, I mean, specifically I know that I haven't done it, I'm still cheated either way.
I think you just get good at lying. Yeah, absolutely, I wrote that.
Yeah.
100%. I think what we'll become is curators a lot more. I think if we are essentially commissioning machines to develop more and more work, we'll be the ones who choose what we value from that work. I think until we get to sort of a general intelligence of AI, which we were talking about earlier with Calum, computers don't have taste. They don't know what good is. Like, we often don't have taste. So I think we're okay for a while. That is the thing I'm worried about. I think it'll first come for more kind of technical writing, yes, things like copywriting. You have to write a tagline for a new product, and it has to include this word and be 12 words long and rhyme, for example. A computer will do that like that for you. You pay a copywriter a couple of days, so I think we'll become much more curatorial. Eventually though, it's like, right, I think we'll work in collaboration though. I think it's okay. I think we will use artificial intelligence and algorithms as tools to create, and then we'll build on that with our human brains.
Calum, you sort of mentioned that idea of us working together as a sort of centaur, and actually our human contribution will diminish and diminish and diminish, possibly.
Our human contribution to the paid work, the paid jobs, I think will diminish, because machines will be able to increasingly do the things that we do better, cheaper and faster. But machines don't care about having fun, and we do care about having fun. And humans aren't going to suddenly stop existing, so we will find a role for ourselves.
Unless the robots really want us to.
That might come later, but that's a different problem altogether. That's more in the 50-year time horizon than the 25-year time horizon. Our job is to make sure that we can get this new economy, and it's a completely different economy, so that humans don't have to do jobs anymore.
I guess the big stumbling block that I see is that this is something that governments need to be made aware of, but fundamentally coming out and saying, by the way, you're all going to be jobless, is not a vote winner. So I feel like governments aren't necessarily going to get on board with it. Have you had any experience of sort of where their thinking is?
Yes, I have spoken to a few politicians about it, and I think they're beginning to think about it. I think their thinking is impeded by a glorious profession known as economists, who are all in denial. They are all, I think, guilty of the reverse Luddite fallacy. Automation hasn't created unemployment, lasting unemployment in the past, therefore it won't in the future. Now, they may be right, but I think they're probably wrong, and it's certainly not guaranteed that they're right. So I think the economists are stopping the politicians from thinking about it seriously, but also the rest of us need to think about it seriously, because as you said, a politician who's too far ahead of the public thinking is a politician who's soon out of a job. We only pay them to think about the next 5 years or so, so that's what they do. We need to think about technological unemployment, and then the politicians will pick that up, be a little bit ahead of us, and get to grips with this knotty problem.
And Billie, you talked a bit about looking for the weaknesses of robots as areas that we can exploit as humans, the things that we can still bring. What are those areas, or all three of you actually, that you think that we might be able to exploit?
So obviously like the emotional side of things, the social skills, that kind of thing, robots will never be able to replace, like I said, nurses and people like that, where you need that emotional understanding kind of thing to be able to relate to people. Yeah, they'll be able to do that monotonous, those kind of jobs.
It's the things like for me, as an artist, it's the tactility stuff. It's the going to the theatre, going to an art gallery, going to see live performance. I think we're a long way off, human android style actors on the stage. So at least for a long while, I think we'll always want that immediate aesthetic kind of connection with things. I think that is going to be incredibly tricky to replace from computers. I think we'll probably see the generation of texts, images, film, that sort of thing, augmenting the human creativity. But yeah, you look at, there's also a massive drive to things that are much more bespoke and personalised, handmade books, custom poems, going to the art gallery. Attendance is up and up and up for all these things. So I think we still desire that real human connection with things. And I don't think that's going to be replaced, at least for a long while. I hope so, because one of the things that people will say, if you had all the time and you didn't have to worry about money, what would you do? It would be, I'd make art, I'd draw, I'd paint, I'd sing. And we don't have time to do that because the economy as it is, unless you're already wealthy or you somehow figure out a way to make money from this thing, it's very hard to make a living as an artist. I love the idea that computers and robots could free our minds up to pursue those things that we want to and we desire to. That's super exciting. At the same time, that then does me out of a paid job. If we've got thousands of people creating art because they want to, and I'm doing it because I need to eat and pay the rent, I'm threatened from both sides of this. I'm quite scared. Quite scared of it.
This is an absolute nightmare for you.
Oh, seriously.
However you look at it. Yeah.
Seriously.
There's a question on the WhatsApp sort of related to what you're talking about, saying, how do you imagine robots who look like perfect humans, like on the Channel 4 show, or as machines of all shapes and sizes being optimised for their roles? Personally, if my dentist was a robot, I wouldn't want to be checked by a mess of metal arms and wires, which is sort of what you were saying, Billie, that actually in certain situations, we're probably not going to be that willing to be sort of treated by a sort of faceless machine. But I guess it is possible that we'll get to a stage where we are okay with that.
Well, I think there'll be both then. If people don't want to be treated by a mechanical dentist, then they won't make it. But they will be more accurate than humans. They don't suffer from like fatigue and things like that humans will do. So I guess it will just see how people like warm to it.
Yeah. Anyone? There's a hand up over here. Yeah.
If we get to a world where we don't have to work, would that mean that as humans we'd become kind of unfulfilled in our accomplishments? Because we might have all these opportunities to, like you said, do what you're passionate about, whether that's art, whether that's cooking, whether that's whatever. But if you're doing that every single day, it's not going to become a passion anymore, and you're going to start to feel maybe unfulfilled.
Yeah, I think it's a good question actually, because I think that we often forget that there is a component of work that isn't just practical and financial. A lot of people get a feeling of self-worth from work, and that presumably in a kind of workless society is something that is going to vanish, isn't it, Calum?
We've got quite a bit of experience of humans who don't work not dying of existential despair. One is retired people, and I'm one of them. I live in a small town in Sussex where most people I think are retired, and they run around like mad things. They're busy as hell, and like me, they don't know what they did, how they fit everything in when they had jobs. The other category is aristocrats who, love them or hate them, really never worked. I mean, some of them looked after their estates, and if they came from this country, they ran empires and things like that. But most of them didn't work, and they all lived perfectly satisfactory lives. So no, I don't think that's our biggest problem. I think our biggest problem is the money problem.
Okay. Another question.
Any other questions? In the same way that you spoke about how machines will stop humans from getting tired or making mistakes, do you think there's going to be a point where the machines could make the mistakes, and how do you think humans would be able to deal with that? For example, with like a robot surgeon.
So a robot surgeon takes off the wrong leg, for example. You're not happy, are you?
I'm really fascinated in the ethical dilemmas that AI pose, particularly in the self-driving car. I've spoken to some AI philosophers. They are real people. And they say, you have a situation where the car has to decide to crash into a cyclist who's wearing a helmet or into a cyclist without the helmet. Do you reward the cyclist who's doing the right thing by putting the helmet on, or do you crash into that because they're more likely to survive? It's like fascinating dilemmas that computers will have to solve. So I think rather than mistakes, it's these tricky situations, which of course, when there's automation everywhere, will come up time and time again. Statistically, it's going to happen. And we haven't got answers for these yet, as far as I know. How do you build in the capacity to make those kind of decisions without freaking everyone out? Oh, one little thing I found absolutely fascinating talking to one of these AI philosopher people. Most people agree when they do surveys on this that a self-driving car that makes decisions about to save lives is a really good thing. Everyone's like, yep, definitely, brilliant. Would you buy that car if it could potentially kill you? No, definitely not. So we don't have the capacity yet, I don't think, as humans to kind of make that utilitarian kind of decision. Yeah, logically, of course I should buy this car. It might kill me. No, definitely not.
I'm sort of vaguely hoping that when the robot operating the car is making a decision between the helmeted cyclist and the unhelmeted, that it finds a third way and doesn't kill either of them. Yeah. But we don't know. We don't know. Yeah. How will we build that kind of stuff in? How will we build in those decision making that doesn't seem too harsh to the human sort of judgment?
The first thing to say is those edge cases are fascinating. There's a whole branch of philosophy called trolleyology to deal with them. But they are, if they ever happen, they're going to happen a tiny, tiny number of times. And the big thing to remember is that humans currently kill 1.2 million people every year on the roads around the world, and we severely injure between 20 and 50 million other people. We are sending humans to do what is about to become a machine's job. So whether we have this issue of the cyclist with the hat or without the hat, we're saving 1.2 million people to start with. So it's not the biggest problem. But there are all sorts of problems that could happen with machines going wrong. Imagine if you're in a city and suddenly the car control system, to the extent there is a centralized one, is hacked, and every car in that city suddenly turns left. That could be quite nasty. So we have to be very, very careful to build very robust systems into our AI. But we already do that. AI runs our utilities, it runs our supermarkets, it runs our search engines, et cetera, and because these things are developed in open markets, they're very contestable, they are actually fairly robust. The planes don't drop out of the sky every day, though pilots only fly them for about 3 minutes in every journey. So, we're pretty good. Some things will go wrong, there will be some horrible accidents, but by and large, the level of safety will rise enormously.
Okay, I think we better take a quick break. And one last round of applause, please, for our speakers, Billie, Calum and Dan.